Chair. Find a chair if you don't have a chair. Everybody in the chair. We're finna play a fun game of David Says. All right? So, here we go.
Wait, am I supposed to record this?
First of all, David says, move to where you are sitting with 2 people you are not currently within 4 people of right now. You gotta move to where you're sitting. You cannot be sitting anywhere near 4 people that you are by right now. Move. Go. Everybody's moving. We're moving fast. We're moving fast. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
That seems stressful.
Alright, find a seat, find a seat. There's plenty of seats over here. Seats all around, seats all around. We got some seats right up in here. We got some front row Joe right over here. Okay, next, David says, if you have a phone that is not in a bag and not currently in a pocket, if you have a phone somewhere in your handy possession where you can grab it quickly, raise it up in the air. Not in a pocket, not in a bag. If you got a phone handy, raise it up quick. Everybody look around, make sure they're being honest. Take those phones right now, put them in your pocket, put them to where you cannot grab them at all. In your pocket. In a bag, whatever, you cannot. Everybody else on that row, look around, make sure they're doing right. No phones, no way, no how. David said. Number 3. David says, sit up, hardcore straight. I mean just as straight as you got, man. I want that spine like you got a spine brace on, you know what I mean? Get that spine straight, come on, come on. Get it up, get it up. Get up straight. Some of you are. David says, get up. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Sit up straight. Sit up straight. David says, take your hands. Do just like this and fold them in your lap. Still sitting up straight. I did not say slouch. There was no slouch in that conversation.
Cody.
We're sitting up. Got our hands. David says, heads are pointing straight at me and mouths are no longer moving. Stay in the positions that you were told, David said already. Oh, your hands are not crossed? Oh, girl. That's good. Moving the lips, though. Moving the lips. All right? David says, close your eyes. Close your eyes. David says, close your eyes. No, is he for real? Yes, I'm totally for real. Right now, there should be no phones that you can grab and get ready to look at. Right now, you should be sitting up. Hands kind of just folded in your lap, maybe on top of your Bible, whatever. Nobody's talking. Heads are this direction, but eyes are closed, and you're just listening to me. And I don't know what you're hearing, other than the words coming out of my mouth, but you may be hearing some other thoughts in your head like, is this brother for real? Is he really doing this? Anybody got tomatoes we can throw? I can play dodgeball. You may be thinking all kinds of things, but you're like, what's up? Why did he just get us into these positions? Why in the world would he do that? I don't know what you're thinking, but I do want you to do this for me. I want you to honor this for just a few moments while I've got you tonight. And I want you to go ahead and open your eyes and look at me and stay focused on me. Because I want you to catch something tonight that you may not have caught in a long, long time. I want you to catch something tonight that so many people have heard from the Word of God that people take the Old Testament and they twist it and they conform it and they make it to be something that it's not. And then it gets us to walk in ways we were never meant to walk. In a real simple manner. Because see, when you came to church tonight, in theory, you were expecting to hear that somebody was going to talk, right? Right?
Yeah.
Somebody was going to talk. You know that. When you go to church, you're going to show up and somebody's going to be flapping their gums up on stage. You may not listen to what they say, but you know their gums are moving. You know what I'm saying? You know that will happen. That's not new. Now, if you've never been to church before, you are excused from that knowledge. But everybody else, you're not excused from that. Because you know, when you go to church, you're expecting to hear something. And in theory, when you go to church, the person that's flapping their gums, you are going to assume is going to talk about God. All right? Now, I do know, in today's day and age, just because you go into church does not mean there's one up there talking is talking about God. And that's for sure. I mean, I get that. Just because you're going into a church house doesn't mean they're going to be talking about God. But in theory, that ought to be who they're talking about, right? All right? So, I know since you come into the house of God that you're expecting to hear somebody talk, and you're expecting it to be about God. I'm not giving you that benefit of the doubt that you're expecting it. You're expecting it to be about God. Then you're welcome, for David says. Watch me now. Because see, if you were expecting to hear from God tonight, because you were expecting somebody to talk and conveniently, that's me tonight, in case you weren't already aware. Then I helped you because I helped you take your phone and put it away. Because your phone might be your distraction. And see, I know that you came to church tonight ready to hear God. Because you know, I'm going to church. I might hear about God tonight. So I'm helping you not be sorry. Well, David, my phone's on my Bible. You're right. Your phone may be having your Bible on it, kind of thing going on. You kind of pull up your little Bible app. Guess what? We also put scriptures up there. You also have this thing that's called a Bible. It comes in a hardback and softback version. No, just metal version, okay? So just telling you, because I know a lot of times it's easy, because I've done the same thing. I've used my phone as my Bible app before in church. And I've used my phone to take notes, actually, of the sermon before. And wouldn't you know, when I'm using it, sometimes a text comes in. Or sometimes a new Instagram or Facebook notification may pop up. And not that any of us are ever ADD, but on occasion I might go, wait, what was that again? And I just missed a good 30 seconds to several minutes of whatever was just being taught. Not intentionally. It was not intentional. It just happened. It just happened. So you're welcome that I had you do that. You're welcome that I had you sit up, because I know that it's easy to kind of kick back and be like, and then you kind of just zone down and out. And even with your heads kind of pointed towards me as opposed to with each other, because if I didn't say, look at me while I'm talking, it'd be real easy to be like, Sonny, well, this is all talking about for real, right? It'd be real easy to get engaged in the conversation. Not that any of y'all would ever do that, or we've ever seen that when we've been behind you. Hello. So you're welcome that we just helped you. Why would we have to do that to help you? Well, just so you know, the concept did not originate with me. To come up with a list of, you need to do this when you're here. That concept did not begin with me. See, I'm a worship leader. And when I lead worship, I'll tell you one of the hardest things for me, y'all, is when I'm up here on the stage and I'm worshiping. And I am just, it is only by your grace that I can do anything giving glory to your name. And I'm just up here and I'm just praising. And if my eyes look down for whatever purpose, and they get pulled down, and I see anybody that's just talking, and they're missing, because that's my heart. My heart is not, shut up and sing. My heart is, hello. This is my heart. My heart is, do you not get it? Do you not see that the God who made everything, not one thing was made that he did not touch? And the God who made you. And by the way, just so you know, anybody in the house ever sinned? Anybody in the house ever do anything wrong? Anybody ever do more than one sin? Just so you know, let me keep it real straight because I want you to understand. But brother, he's just like, I'm not owning, I'm standing up actually. I'm owning this. So am I. So am I, bro. And just so that we're clear, and this ain't no guilt trip, this is truth trip. When you raised your hand, you might as well take that hammer in your hand and put that nail in Jesus' wrist for him. Because that's what your sin did. It's not for everybody else's sin, it's yours. We forget that. Well, why would we sin? I don't know. Could it be because we get our eyes off of God and more onto ourselves? And so when I'm up there leading worship, I'm like, can you not really understand who we're talking to? And you might be like, bro, I'm not a singer. Okay, make a joyful noise. Okay, just and I've heard a lot of people making joyful noises, so it's fine. I can handle that, okay? You may even be like, I don't want to. I'll tell you, you don't have to twist my arm to maybe turn around and go up to Lisa and say, Lisa, you are hot, and it's a true story. Lisa, I mean, yeah. I've done some of before too. That's true. I've done that. All right. And you don't have to twist my arm to maybe do it. You don't have to go, David. You better tell her she's pretty. I already got it. Done. Okay, I got dibs on that one already. I'm calm. You're pretty. I don't need you to tell me. I can't help but get those words out of my mouth. Why? Because to me, she's the most beautiful thing that ever was. I don't have to be coerced, bribed, pushed, guilt-tripped to love her. I don't have to be. I love her. I've been blessed with her. And I will say that to her face. I'll say it in public around y'all. I'll say it in public with her present. I will say it in private with her. I don't really care. Nobody has to twist my arm to do it. When it comes to singing worship to God, you don't even have to say, I don't like to sing. Well, that's fine. And I'm not knocking you, but I want to tell you, how do you express your love to God if the words never come out of your mouth? Let me help you out. When you get married one day, bro, that ain't going to happen. Just saying. So you're going to expect to hear the words. Why not get used to using those kind of words with the one who made you, who gave you grace, who loves you more than any spouse ever could? The one who died for your soul. See, so when I get up here, I have to close my eyes sometimes and totally tune everybody out, even if I'm singing about Jesus and not necessarily to him, because I don't want my heart to break knowing that Brooke could have cared less to worship the one who made her. Because I want her to know that. I want her to know that he loves her. So I don't want to see that she wouldn't want that. And I used her because Laura pours it out when she worships, and I've seen her. Mind you, she doesn't put on a show. I've seen people put on shows. I've seen her just express her love to Jesus, and she could care less if she's by herself or with all her friends. She's going to love Jesus regardless of y'all. All right? We look at the Old Testament, and how many of you think, and be honest, be for real, how many of you think or have ever thought that the Old Testament was just full of all the do's and don'ts? All these laws, all this, it's got to be this way, this way, this way, and sometimes like the laws kind of being out of control. Anybody ever thought that? Anybody ever? Own it. If that's you. If you've ever thought the Old Testament seriously is a bunch of full of do's and don'ts, you've heard other people saying it too, whatever, own it. That's you. And some of y'all are like, I don't know what the Old Testament even is about, so I'm not going to have an opinion. Okay, well, all right. In the garden, in the very, very beginning, do you know how many restrictions God gave? What'd you say, Dawson? In the garden, he gave one restriction. God, who made everything, and he called it all good. He brought Adam in. He let Adam name all of the animals that he made. And he let Adam name them. He told Adam, you can eat the fruit of anything you want. Don't eat the fruit from this tree. Because if you do, there will be a cost. I'm just telling you. I love that God is straight. God is just straight out. If you eat from this, you will die. No, you're not going to die that instant. Okay? But oh no, you can guarantee death will take place. There's a spiritual death. There will be a physical death. Death will take place. Just don't eat from this one. You can look at it, you can enjoy it. Don't eat it. Don't eat from this. That's all he said. But he got to do all this other stuff. He brought him Eve. And we all know how that went down. Girls, you all know where you got one man from. Okay? He gave him this beautiful woman. He's just done it. This is who he gets for fellowship. One restriction. And the enemy comes in and he twists it, and he curves it. And man and woman chose to disobey the one restriction they had. One. And so what happened? Obviously the consequences happened. They had to get out, because God was straight out. There's consequence to this. And so some more restrictions started to get laid down. Hear me. Just so you know, we're heading to the Levitical code. Leviticus is a book in the Old Testament, one of the first books in the Bible. It's after Exodus, because there are some people that want to know, what is the Levitical code? That was the topic that they dropped. What's the Levitical code? What's the purpose of it? What still stands today? Well, just so you know, in a few weeks, I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to give you some of the nitty-gritty dirt with why the details are the details. You'll get that. All I want you to walk away from tonight is this: the heart of the code. The heart of, when I say Levitical code, I'm talking about all the law, really, in the Old Testament. I'm just going to wipe it all in one swoop. The heart of it. Because I don't like people talking about my daddy saying, hey, all he is one who's throwing out a bunch of do's and don'ts, taking away all our fun, all our pleasure. Actually, he ain't taking away none of your fun and none of your pleasure. What he's trying to do is save your life. That's what he's trying to do. He was trying to do that in the garden by just saying, don't touch the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat it. He said you can touch it. Don't eat it. Don't eat from this one. That's it. To protect them. To protect them. And when they went around that, all of a sudden certain things started to get built on. And we know that God was finally just done. He's like, okay, we're a clean slate. You had Noah, you had all that, you had the flood, you had all that. You don't know about that, we can talk about that later. But he then moves on. And you've got where God's chosen people, the Israelites, they're all in Egypt. They are slaves. Hear me. They are slaves to Pharaoh. They don't have any say. We don't really understand what slavehood really means. There's a lot of people who like to talk about, yeah, the slaves this, the slaves that. I'm like, would you shut up? Because you don't even know what that's like. I've been around people that they do have slaves, and I know exactly what that's like. It's very burdensome. It's easy to talk when we don't understand. They were slaves to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh could kill them if he so choose at any moment. And God brought Moses in to lead the people out of Egypt. And you would have thought, when that happened, that God's people would have been like, we have been slaves, we have had nothing, we have been so mistreated, we've this, we've that, but we've seen the power of God. Hello, we're with you, we're clinging to you. And instead, they went about acting like a bunch of fools. Acting straight up like a bunch of fools. Read Exodus, it's all right there. And so what happened? God said, all right, Moses, we finna lay down the letter of the law. God shouldn't have to say, make no idols. God shouldn't have to say, make no idols. They should know. An idol, something man-made, no good. God, who has done everything, who freed us from slavehood, who has brought us to life, pretty sure I don't need an idol. I'm good. I'm going to focus on Him. People shouldn't have been told, don't have an idol. People shouldn't have had to have been told, to worship no other gods beside him. Shouldn't have been told. It should have been clear. I'm good. He just said, have no other gods before me. And people should have been like, no problem, God. We're good on that one. It's kind of like somebody telling me, okay, now, you got Lisa as your wife. Okay, make sure you don't take any other women as your wife, too. A, that would not be beneficial to my health because she would kill me. Let me just say that right now. She would kill me. I'm good to go to keep up with her. I'm the Sister Wives show. There are people out there mind. That's all I'm saying. I'm good with one wife. I'm way good with one wife. I don't need to be told. Why would people be told you don't have any other God but him? That's a no-brainer. Right? Right? All right? Kind of like when you come in here, you're expecting to hear the Word of God preached. I shouldn't have to tell anybody to put their phones away, should I? I shouldn't have to tell somebody to pay attention to whoever's up here talking, should I? Because you know, it's not like you're walking in here going, what happens here? Because if you are that way, you ought to be talking to the one who brought you, because odds are you came with somebody. So I'll give you benefit of the doubt. But everybody else, you're not walking in here going, I wonder what's going to happen. You ought to hear about God. I shouldn't have to tell you how to act. I shouldn't have to. Right? But people got so chaotic that God finally said, we're going to lay down all these rules. I got to read Leviticus 1 to you. I've got to tell you, and I ain't got time to read all of them to you, but oh, Lord have mercy. So I'm just going to read, starting, we don't have these on the board, so if you don't have your Bible, just listen. Do not use your phone. Your phones are put away, remember? All right, Leviticus 1, here he goes. The Lord calls to Moses, and he spoke to him from the tent of meeting. He said, Leviticus 1, verse 2, speak to the Israelites and say to them, when any of you brings an offering to the Lord, bring as your offerings an animal from either the herd or the flock. Now watch how detailed he gets. Verse 3, if the offering is a burnt offering from the herd, he's to offer a male without defect. How do you know if it has no defect? You have to examine it, don't you? Right? You got to check it out to make sure it's got no defect. He has to lay his hand, verse 4, on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted on his behalf. Lay his hand on his head. Be accepted on his behalf to make atonement for him. He is to slaughter the young bull before the Lord. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall bring the blood, sprinkle it against the altar on all sides at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He's to skin the burnt offering, cut it into pieces. The sons of Aaron and the priests are to put fire on the altar, arrange wood on the fire. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall arrange the pieces, including the head and the fat, on the burning wood that is on the altar. He's to wash the inner parts and the legs with water. This stuff's about to be cooked. And God's going to say, I'm going to wash it. You're going to wash it too. Okay? So, and the priest is to burn it all off on the altar. If it's a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Verse 10, if the offering is a burnt offering from the flock, from either the sheep or the goats, he's to offer a male without defect. He is to slaughter it on the north side of the altar. On the which side?
North.
Does it matter? It's going to get killed. Yeah, it matters. Because God's saying, you will pay attention to exactly how I want this to be. Why? Because these knuckleheads, which we really can't blame them, these knuckleheads were all about finding ways around. And God's like, I'm going to tell you exactly how this is going to play out. And so he does. And in verse 14, if the offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of birds, he's to offer a dove or a young pigeon. Those of you that said pigeon earlier other than frog, I'm so sorry. The priest shall bring it to the altar, wring off the head, and burn it on the altar. And its blood will be drained out on the side of the altar. He's to remove the crop with its contents and throw it to the east side of the altar, where the ashes are. He shall tear it open by the wings, not severing it completely, and then the priest shall burn it on the wood that's on the fire on the altar. It's a burnt offering, an offering made by the Lord, aroma pleasing to the Lord. And he goes on to all these other offerings. And then you got some people who are going to try to find a way to weasel their way around, like, ooh, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, I'm going to do whatever. And I love Leviticus 5, verse 1. Leviticus 5:1. If a person sins because he does not speak up when he hears a public charge to testify regarding something he has seen or heard about, he's going to be held accountable. In other words, if you know something's going down and you're not speaking up, oh, you're just as responsible as somebody else. Because you knew the truth and you didn't stand up. Because people, again, now trying to push God it this way, God it that way, because we're trying to talk about sacrifices. And they move into all these things with sacrifices and all this stuff. Now, moving over to chapter 19 of Leviticus. I know I'm not just moving, but just follow me. These are just random laws. There are some that we'll go into in a couple weeks. Like, if a man's with his daughter and they get married and all that, how unclean and wrong that is, do you think? Just saying. Does somebody have to be told? Are you kidding me? I have a daughter. I'm pretty sure I don't need to be told. Love you, Jim. Sorry. Can't be more awkward, but it's true. But I didn't write it. It's already here. You don't have to be told. Maybe if you live in a certain state, I don't know. But in this, I'm good. You know what I mean? Right? Why does he have to spell it out? Because these people have lost their minds. They want to get as close to the edge as they can. And you know what God's doing? God's coming in so specific that he's going, enough, come here. He's trying to grab him by the collar. I know football don't know about horse collaring. God has no problem horse collaring you. He's trying to horse collar you to save your life. And so he's lining out all these details. Some of us were like, do they really matter? And some of us were like, did you really need to say that? And God's saying, apparently I do need to say it. And I'm going to line out all kinds of things because you're not paying attention to who I am. I'm trying to save your life. Some of these things in chapter 19, the Lord says to Moses, speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. That right there should be done. Right? That right there. Should that not just sum it up? Be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. Enough said, right? We can just set the book. We're good? No. He has to go into detail now. Each of you must respect, his mother and father. Should you have to be told? You shouldn't have to be told that you got to respect your mother and father. Of course, too bad in America, that's one of the only countries that really has a huge problem with that. Ouch, I'm just saying. Could it be because mom and dad trying too much to be buddy, buddy, buddy instead of your mom and dad? I love my little girl. And I'll go to a football game with her, and I will take care of her, and I will do whatever for her. But you know what? I am not trying to be her brother, and I'm not trying to be her best friend. I am her dad. And I know that I'm supposed to be a picture of her father in heaven. I'm supposed to try to be that picture for her. So I'm going to try with all I have. Praise God for his grace when I screw that up. I'm going to try. I want to be able to be that standard. But she's like, bro, you don't measure up to the example my dad's given me, so guess what? You can just hit the road, Jack. I want to be that in her life. But I could care less to be her best friend. I don't need to be in her BFF pictures. It's true. I'm her dad. Think about parents, they start remembering that. And it's crazy. As I am her dad, she knows how much I care for her. And the way that you treat a friend with kindness, respect, gentleness, love, all that, in theory, you ought to be treating her like that as her dad anyway. Right? All right? Respect his mother and father. You must observe my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Don't turn to idols and make gods, or have cast metal for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you sacrifice a fellowship offering to the Lord, sacrifice it in such a way that it will be accepted on your behalf. It should be eaten on the day you sacrifice it, or on the next day. Anything left over until the third day must be burned up. If any of it's eaten on the third day, it's impure and will not be accepted. And he just goes on and on. He starts bringing out some of the commandments. He starts bringing out some other additional things. And you guys, I want you to grab this. He goes on and on and on in Leviticus with all kinds of stuff. And then even in Deuteronomy and some of those. He goes on with all this law. But I want you, if you don't hear anything, hear this from me tonight. The Old Testament is not full of a bunch of do's and don'ts. The Old Testament is full of God trying to get your attention to realize, I need you to focus on me, because if you're not focused on me, you're not coming to have eternity with me, which you were made to have eternity with me, and I don't want to accept anything less. I don't want you in hell, so if I've got to put strict guidelines on it to get you to focus on me, I'm going to do whatever it takes because I love you. That's what it's about. It's about love. Straight up. That's what it's about. But so often, we take it and we twist it. Well, does it really say this? Does it really say that? Why don't you start saying, am I really looking at Jesus or am I not looking at Jesus? See, Jesus said he came to fulfill the law. But you know what he said with that? A little bit later in Matthew. Go ahead and flip up those verses in Matthew for me. I love this passage that he says. All right? Let me grab my Bible because I know that's not it. Matthew chapter 11, I believe. Yep, Matthew 11, 28 to 30. There we go. Come to me. Matthew 11, 28 to 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Verse 29. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Verse 30. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. You know what he's talking about here? The Pharisees are putting all this undue pressure on the people. You got to do this. 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 I love how Jesus got in the face. They're talking about the Sabbath day, and they're like getting on to him for healing somebody on the Sabbath. And he's like, seriously? You're about to get on to me about healing somebody on the Sabbath. What's more important? This brother can take up his mat and walk now. He just got healed, and they're going, he should not be carrying his mat. It's the Sabbath. I don't know. Maybe you go, oh, he's walking. So let's start there. Before we go, oh, let me carry your mat for you because why are you walking? They missed a miracle because they want to focus on the strict, rigid rule, which they kind of started to make for themselves. And I'm going to get there in a minute. And what Jesus is saying is, dude, you who are burdened and heavy laden and all that, come to me. Come to me. I'm going to give you rest. Because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. It is not about, hear me, that verse is very clearly talking about, it is not about having to make sure that you go through and you know everything that the law says in the Old Testament, and you better make sure that you're minding your P's and Q's, crossing your T just like so, put your dot just so on your J and on your I. Make sure your J has a nice little curve, and if it doesn't, wrong for you. He's not saying do it all like that. He's saying, just look at me. Just look at me. And I promise you, I know that if I'm looking at God, I'm a lot less likely to be looking at sin. Easy illustration. I'll bring my wife back into this. Okay? If there's some woman coming up to me, trying to work her business with me, and she's all, hey, baby, okay? I promise you. Now, let's just say in a moment of weakness, okay, that I'll be like, hey, and let her flirt for a second. I promise you, if my wife is standing right there and I see her right there, this little flirt action ain't happening. Right? Right? Okay, y'all real slow on that answer. I'm just saying. Any of you that have never dated before, will that work out too well for you? I'm just saying. No way! If I got some girl trying to flirt with me and my wife is right there and I'm seeing my wife, I'm guaranteeing you, easy. Move along, woman. I got my wife. I'm good. She's right there. And even when my wife is not right there, when I remember that she's right there, hello. These people going on business trips and leaving their business rings at home, their wedding rings at home, I'm just saying. The business ring here. They're going to begin some business if they take that ring on. That's true. Before you sit there, but it works. But seriously, when I remember, hello, I'm very married. There's no thought to be entertained by any other woman. I'm good. With God, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to do what he wants me to do if I'm staying focused on him. And it's going to be easy. Again, it's going to be easy because I love him. He's a whole lot more important than anybody else in my life. So I'm going to keep walking with him. Follow? You follow. In the book of John, chapter 1. Book of John, chapter 1, verse 17. Catch this verse. Talking about the Word becoming flesh, and the Word is here, talking about Jesus. And it says this, in regards to the law. Verse 17 of chapter 1 of John. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. You hear that? For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. He's saying there was a need and a time for all that law to get dropped on the table, and it better be this way, this way, this way. There was a time and a season for that. And it was for real. But guess what? We now have Jesus. Period. And basically, the way I kind of actually see this is it's kind of one of those things, a little David interpretation. Okay, 1 David 1:1. I don't need to worry about the law anymore. I need to worry about Jesus. Because if I get so hung up on the law, I'm going to miss Jesus because I'm going to focus on what I can do. Ephesians 2, hello. We are not saved by works so that no man can boast. It's not about what I do. It's about what he did. But I love how basically it's saying, you can talk about all this righteousness. You can talk about, I'm living this way, I'm living that way, I'm living this way, I'm living that way. And he's finally like, enough is enough. It's about Jesus. It's about Jesus. Get over it. And even Paul brings it up in the book of Romans. Romans chapter 14, I believe. Nope, chapter 8. Yeah, Romans 14, 7 and 8. Romans 14, 7 and 8. None of us lives to himself alone, and none of us dies to himself alone. If we live to who? If we live to who? Lord. And if we die to who? Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to Lord. And why do we know that? Because now, flip back into the book of John, chapter 8. Let me close it down with this. A little Bible drill. You good? Go back to John, chapter 8, verse 31. Ready? Here we go. To the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. And then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. They answered him, when we're Abraham's descendants, and have never been slaves of anyone, how can you say that we shall be set free? And Jesus replies, I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I know you're Abraham's descendants. I don't know if verse 37 is up there. He's saying, I know you're Abraham's descendants, yet you are ready to kill me because you have no room for my word. I'm telling you that I've seen that what I've seen in the Father's presence, and you do what you have heard from your Father. What Jesus is basically saying is this. You don't have to be a slave anymore. You get to be a son. And what these people are saying is, oh, we've never been slaves. Yo, bro, did you forget Egypt? Yeah, you were slaves. And did you forget when you came out of Egypt and you got all tied up in your sin with your idols and your flesh after flesh after flesh? Did you forget about that? Yeah, you were slaves. You were slaves to your sin. And he's saying, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. You can be a child. See, a slave gets no inheritance. A slave has no familial rights. A slave just has to do what they're told and go on about their business, but they have nothing they gain from it. We get to be called sons and daughters of God. We get to have a way in as family, if we choose. What's the heart of the Levitical code? What's the heart of the Levitical law? I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's God saying, can you not see me? Can you not see that I am trying so hard to protect you? It's kind of like lying. When he says, thou shalt not lie, if you start going and lying to people, straight up, people will not like you because they cannot trust you. Who wants to live like that, right? Right? Nobody wants like that. He's trying to protect you. When he's saying, don't go get drunk, be filled with the Spirit, because he's saying you let other substances control you other than him, you're going to make choices and decisions that you were never meant to make that are going to cost you. When he's saying save yourself for marriage, he's not saying let's cut down on a party scene. He's saying I've got something special for you, but baby, you are never going to know until you're married. And if you choose to turn around and give that away before that, you're going to miss a great gift. And if you hear that right now for the first time, and you've already turned around and messed up, let me just say, he can start you fresh today. Don't take advantage of the grace. Receive the grace. Don't just keep going, well, I'll just keep sinning until whatever. That was the whole point of the law. That was the whole point of the code. Trying to get us to quit sinning. For our own good. I'm a father. And I get that. Because I'll guarantee you, I'll watch actions my daughter makes. And if there's something we got to talk about serious, we talk about it serious. But I'm going to be right there by her all the way through. I'm going to be the same way with my boy. I'm a worship leader, and I get to be a pastor. I get that opportunity to shepherd. Jesus is the great shepherd. But I kind of get a little bit of the concept of what he's trying to do here, because I know when we go places, I never want to be that youth group that when they go and they're staying in a hotel somewhere or whatever, they're on a plane flying to Slovakia or whatever. I never want to be that group that they're like, seriously, can they hurry up and get out of my hotel? Can they hurry up and get off my stupid airplane? I want us to be the people that they're like, seriously? Can y'all actually stay with us? That's who I want us to be. The people that want to stay. Because of who we are, how we act. When we go out to eat, I want Chick-fil-A on Thursday mornings with the guys. I want Chick-fil-A to be like, seriously, we want you people here. Not, I'm so sick of these people here. Hello. You follow? And in here, I get the desperation to a point. And I imagine if I long so bad for you guys to get the message that I'm trying to communicate to you about how much he cares, about how much he wants you with him, about how much he can't stand to be without you, which is why he gave you Jesus for your sin. So he's trying to remove every distraction from your eyes so that you'll just see him. I get that to a point because I want you to understand so bad. Because I was lost in sin. I had no hope. I get it. And now I get the grace. And I wish I was like some of y'all people who have been saved for years, and you get to live high school as a saved person. I wish I could have been like that. Then again, I also wish somebody like you would have come into me when I was in high school. People like my testimony of living in sin before I came to Christ and all this whatever, and all these bad things that I have in my life, they think that that's an awesome testimony, and they have no testimony because they live for Jesus. Let me tell you, it's a whole lot harder to live for Jesus and stay consistent than it is to go live in sin and then find Jesus down the road. You hear that? Did you hear that? It's a whole lot harder to live for Jesus consistent right now than it is to go living in sin and then try to come back to Jesus one day. I know that. I get that for you. So I want to help you. And I want y'all to help each other. And I want y'all to start taking the code, the law, this is how we act. Not because we want to put on a look. Because, baby, I never want you to put on a look about anything. I just want you, as he said in Leviticus, the whole point of the matter, I just want you to be holy as he is holy. Everything else will fall into place, I promise you. What laws does Jesus need to throw down in your life to make you have your eyes on him? What distractions does he need to come in and not be a jerk about? Or what distractions does he need to come in and say, enough is enough, I'm tired of the game, I'm taking that from you so you can look at me. Let it. Let it. Because he doesn't want you to forfeit your soul. He wants you to have his abundant life in your soul. And if you don't know that, come talk to me after. Talk to one of the adults after. If you do know it, what's holding you back from sharing with somebody else? Let's pray. Father, I thank you so much for the heart of why you gave us all the rules, because we couldn't handle just one. And Father, it seems like we always find ways to get around and be distracted. And God, I thank you. And you are so full of mercy and grace. And that's why you gave us Jesus. It's not about what we do, it's about what he did. So, Father, I pray that what he did would be enough to draw our eyes to you, to want to know you more, to want to live for you, to want to be wholly yours. We thank you that you will adopt us as sons if we just receive your Son. We thank you for the great gift of Jesus Christ. And so, Father, it's in his name that we pray. Amen. Have a good night. Love you. Mean it.